Have you ever promised yourself that tomorrow will be different, only to wake up and repeat the same old habits again and again? You dream of success, of a better life, of a future where you finally become the person you've always admired. But every single morning, comfort wins, and your dreams wait, and wait, and wait. This is the story of a young blacksmith who lived just like that, until one moment, one simple truth, changed his life forever. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by rolling green hills and shining rivers, there lived a young blacksmith named Eric. He was strong, clever, and truly gifted with the hammer and anvil. Everyone in the village knew Eric had incredible raw talent. Some even whispered that he could one day become the greatest blacksmith in the entire kingdom. But Eric had one problem, a problem that many of us secretly have. He was lazy, not because he didn't have big dreams, and not because he wasn't skilled, but because he was always waiting for the right moment. Every morning, Eric would wake up late, sip his warm tea, and watch the clouds drift lazily across the sky. "I'll start tomorrow," he'd promise himself. But then tomorrow would become next week, and next week would become, well, never. Inside his workshop were piles of unfinished tools, plows, swords, and simple repairs the villagers desperately needed. But Eric kept delaying them, thinking, "I'll do it when I feel motivated." And so his potential remained untapped, and his dreams remained only dreams. One morning his best friend, Jared, a hard-working farmer, came to him. His face was etched with concern. "Eric," he said softly, "you're so talented. You could help so many people and build a great life for yourself. Why do you keep waiting?" Eric just shrugged, a familiar, easy gesture. "I'll work when I feel like working." Jared sighed, a deep, heavy sound. "One day you'll regret this. Dreams mean nothing without action." Eric laughed it off, but deep inside, those words struck him like a hammer on cold, unyielding iron. Weeks passed. The seasons began to turn. Farmers complained openly about their late plows. The village guards grumbled about their unfinished swords. Even the children, who once looked up to him, started to whisper amongst themselves, "Why doesn't Eric ever finish anything?" The respect he once commanded was slowly turning into disappointment. Finally, the village chief, a man of great authority and little patience, visited him. "Eric," he said sternly, his voice leaving no room for excuses, "your laziness is hurting this entire village. If you do not change your ways, you will lose your place here." For the very first time in his life, Eric felt a cold grip of real fear. The comfortable life he knew, the future he wanted, it was all slipping away, not because of fate or bad luck, but because of his own choices. That night, under a silent, watching moon, he stood in his messy workshop. He stared at a half-forged sword, its shape clumsy and incomplete. He whispered to the empty air, "I want to be great, but I can't even make myself start." The weight of his inaction felt heavier than any hammer he had ever lifted. The very next morning, a mysterious old blacksmith named Master Rowan arrived in the village. Known across the land for his unparalleled skill and profound wisdom, he had heard stories of Eric's talent and wanted to meet the young man for himself. He found Eric sitting outside his workshop, lost in thought. "Eric," he said gently, his voice like the steady hum of a forge, "you have skill, but skill alone is nothing." He leaned closer, his eyes sharp and knowing. "Do you know the real secret to greatness? Eric, humbled and lost, just shook his head. Master Rowan smiled a small, knowing smile. The secret is simple, yet it is the hardest lesson to learn. You must work even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is like iron, you must heat it and hammer it every single day without fail to make it strong. Start small. 5 minutes, tomorrow 10, then 20. Show up daily, especially when your heart says, not today. Motivation is a guest that comes and goes, but discipline is the foundation that builds your future. For the first time, Eric truly listened. The words weren't just a scolding, they were a roadmap. The next day, he walked into his workshop and lifted his hammer. It felt impossibly heavy. His arms ached after just a few swings. His mind screamed at him to stop. But he forced himself to continue just for 5 minutes. He timed it. Then he pushed for 10, then 30. By sunset, exhausted but with a strange sense of accomplishment, he had finished a small, simple plow. The next day was even harder. He felt tired from the day before. The familiar urge to escape to the river, to just dream instead of work, was almost overwhelming. But a small, new voice inside him whispered, just show up. So he did. Slowly, day by day, Eric began to win these tiny battles against himself. A polished sword gleamed brighter than he had ever imagined. A farmer, receiving his repaired tool, smiled with genuine gratitude, a smile Eric hadn't seen directed at him in a long time. Children started to point at his workshop again, but this time they whispered, he's finally doing it. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Every morning, Eric fought his laziness, and every evening he saw the tangible proof of his victory. A new tool, a finished blade, a growing confidence that warmed him from the inside out. Momentum began to build, and with it a new version of Eric was being forged. Not the lazy dreamer, but the disciplined creator. Months later, Eric's workshop was no longer a place of clutter and shame. It shined with rows of perfectly crafted tools. Villagers traveled from faraway towns just to buy his work. People no longer spoke of his wasted talent, but of his incredible skill and dedication. They spoke of him with pride. One evening, as the sun set, Master Rowan returned. He stood at the entrance of the bustling workshop and simply said, look at what you've built. Eric, his hands calloused, but his spirit strong, nodded. It wasn't easy, he admitted. Some days I hated the work. Some days I wanted to quit more than anything. But I pushed myself, and now I feel alive. I feel proud. I feel like the man I always wanted to be. Rowan smiled. That is the power of discipline. Motivation comes and goes like the wind. Desire flickers like a candle in a storm. But action consistent, daily action is what forges ordinary people into extraordinary ones. Eric's life was changed forever that year. And here is the truth he learned, the truth that applies to every single one of us. You are not lazy. You are just waiting for a perfect moment, a surge of motivation that will never come. The secret is to start small. Start today. Start even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. One small action, then another, and another. That is how discipline is built. That is how greatness begins. Eric became a legend in his village, not because he was the strongest or the most talented, but because he learned the ultimate skill, how to conquer himself. So what is that one small thing you can do today? Not tomorrow, but right now. Go do it. Just for 5 minutes. and then do it again tomorrow. That's all it takes to start building your own legend. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories to help you build your best life.